The ship moved slowly through the darkness of space. Its name was Harmony's Edge, and it was not like the warships that fought in the galaxy's many battles. This ship was built for peace. It carried scientists and explorers from different worlds, all working together to learn about the stars. Commander Veltar stood on the bridge, watching the stars through the big window. He was a Zephyrian, one of the insect-like people who had been exploring space for hundreds of years. His forearms moved quickly as he checked the ship's systems. His large eyes, black as space itself, could see things that other creatures could not. The bridge was quiet, except for the soft hum of machines. Other crew members worked at their stations. Most of them were not like Veltar. Some were Vortani, people made of living crystal who could talk to computers with their minds. Others were Kelthera, water-breathing people who wore special suits to live in the ship's air. Lithana sat at the communications desk. She was young for a Vortani, only 50 years old. Her crystal body glowed with soft blue light as she listened to the sounds of space. Radio waves, energy patterns, and the whispers of distant stars all came through her equipment. "Commander," she said, her voice like the sound of wind through crystal caves. "I'm getting something strange." Veltar walked over to her station. His feet made soft clicking sounds on the metal floor. "What kind of strange?" "It's a signal. Very weak, but it's there. It doesn't match anything in our databases." A commander looked at the patterns on her screen. Lines of light moved up and down, showing the signal's strength. "Where is it coming from?" "That's the strange part. It's coming from a star system that's not on any of our maps. The signal is about 3 light years away." Dr. Cantheri heard them talking and came over. She was a Kelthera, and her green skin was wet from the mist that came from her breathing mask. "A new signal? How exciting. What does it say?" "That's what I'm trying to figure out," Lithana said. She pressed some buttons, and the signal became clearer. "It's not random. There's a pattern to it. Mathematical sequences repeating over and over." The 3 aliens listened to the signal. It was not music, but it was not noise either. There was something purposeful about it, something that spoke of intelligence. "How long has it been broadcasting?" Veltar asked. Lithana checked her instruments. "Based on the signal decay, I think it's been going for months. Maybe longer." "Months?" Dr. Cantheri's eyes went wide. "Whatever is sending this has been calling for a very long time." The commander was quiet for a moment. He had been in space for 20 years, and he had learned to trust his feelings. Something about this signal made him worry. "Can you tell what kind of technology is sending it?" "It's primitive," Lithana said. "Much simpler than what we use. But it's also clever. They're using basic radio waves, but they're doing it in a way that makes the signal travel very far." Other crew members began to gather around. Word had spread quickly through the ship that something interesting was happening. The science team was excited. They had been studying empty space for weeks, and this was the first sign of intelligent life they had found. "We should investigate," said Dr. Cantheri. "This could be first contact with a new species." "Our mission is to study star formation in this sector," Veltar reminded her. "We're not equipped for first contact." "But Commander," Lithana said, "what if they're in trouble? This signal feels like a distress call to me." Veltar looked around at his crew. He saw excitement in their faces, but also concern. These were good people who had spent their lives learning about the universe. They would not be happy if they ignored someone who might need help. "Play the signal again," he said. The bridge filled with the sound of the strange transmission. It was a series of beeps and pulses, but underneath it all was something that made every creature on the ship feel sad. It was the sound of desperation. "It's been calling for months," Veltar sighed quietly. Whatever sent this has been waiting for someone to answer. The crew was silent. They all understood what the commander was thinking. In space, there were rules that everyone followed. The most important rule was that you helped others when they were in trouble. It did not matter if they were from your world or a different world. It did not matter if they were friends or strangers. If someone needed help, you tried to help them. Set course for the signal source, Veltar said finally. But we go carefully. We don't know what we'll find there. Lithana smiled, her crystal face glowing brighter. Yes, Commander. Course set. The ship began to turn, its engines humming, louder as they changed direction. The Harmony's Edge was no longer just exploring empty space. It was racing toward a mystery that would change everything they thought they knew about the galaxy dot as they traveled. The signal grew stronger. It was definitely a distress call, but it was unlike any they had heard before. Most distress calls were panicked and desperate. This one was different. It was steady and determined, like someone who was in terrible danger but refused to give. Up, Commander, Dr. Kanthari said. I've been thinking about this signal. What if the species that sent it has been fighting for their lives? What if they're under attack? Veltar had been thinking the same thing. Then we might be their only hope. The ship flew faster through the darkness, carrying its crew toward a meeting that would change the fate of the galaxy. Behind them, the stars looked the same as always. Ahead of them, something waited in the darkness. Something that had been calling for help for months, hoping that someone would hear and come to save them. The crew of Harmony's Edge did not know it yet, but they were about to meet the most dangerous species in the galaxy. They were about to meet the humans. 3 days later, the Harmony's Edge arrived at the edge of the unknown star system. What Commander Veltar saw there made his blood run cold. The system had a yellow star, much like the ones that warmed many peaceful worlds. But this was not a peaceful place. Ships filled the space around the third planet, and they were not exploration ships like his own. They were warships, black and sharp, like the teeth of some giant space monster. Krillians, whispered Dr. Kanthari, her voice full of fear. Everyone on the bridge knew about the Krillians. They were the nightmare that all peaceful species feared. For 300 years, they had been spreading across the galaxy like a disease. They conquered worlds, enslaved the people they found, and destroyed anything they could not use. Veltar counted the enemy ships. There were over 200 of them, arranged in a perfect circle around the planet below. It was a blockade designed to make sure nothing could get in or out. Take us behind that asteroid, he ordered. We need to stay hidden. The ship moved carefully, hiding in the shadow of a large space rock. From there, they could watch what was happening without being seen. Lithana worked quickly at her station. I'm picking up lots of radio traffic. The Krillians are talking to each other, but there's something else. The planet is still broadcasting. The same signal we heard before? Veltar asked. Yes, but it's changed. It's stronger now, and there are other signals too. Military communications, I think. The planet below was a beautiful blue and green world. It looked peaceful from space, but Veltar could see flashes of light on its surface. Those flashes meant explosions. There was a war going on down there. Look at that, said Dr. Kanthari. Pointing at the screen, a small ship had appeared from behind the planet. It was tiny compared to the Krillian warships, and it looked like it had been built from scraps of metal. But it was moving fast, heading straight for the blockade. Are they crazy? Lithana asked. That little ship can't fight all those warships. But the small ship did not try to fight the whole fleet. Instead, it flew in a wild pattern, dodging the laser blasts that came from the Krillian ships. It moved like a bird avoiding a cat, quick and unpredictable. The ship fired back with weapons. That seemed too small to do any damage. But something unexpected happened. Instead of trying to destroy the big warships, the little ship aimed for their sensors and communication equipment. It was not trying to win a fight. It was trying to cause trouble. Clever, Veltar said quietly. They're not fighting to destroy. They're fighting to disrupt. More small ships appeared from the planet's surface. Some came from the day side, some from the night side. They all flew in the same crazy pattern, making it hard for the Krillians to hit them. The enemy ships began to fire more wildly. Their big weapons were designed to fight other big ships, not these small, fast targets. It was like trying to kill flies with a sword. Commander, Lithana said, I'm picking up communications from the planet. It's not in any language we know, but I think I can translate some of it. She worked for several minutes, her crystal fingers dancing over the controls. It's basic mathematics and some simple concepts. I think they're coordinating their attack. One of the small ships got too close to a Krillian warship. A blast of energy caught it, and the ship exploded in a ball of fire. But before it died, it had damaged the enemy ship's main sensor array. They're sacrificing themselves, Dr. Kenthieri said with horror. But Viltar noticed something else. No, look carefully. The pilot got out. Indeed, just before the ship exploded, a tiny pod had shot out of it. The pod was so small that the Krillians did not even notice it floating in space. They're not throwing their lives away, Veltar realized. They have escape plans. The battle continued for hours. The planet's defenders kept sending up small groups of ships. They would attack, cause damage, and escape before the Krillians could respond properly. It was not the kind of space battle that Veltar had ever seen before. Most species fought space battles with big fleets and careful strategies. This was different. These defenders fought like they had nothing to lose and everything to gain. I'm getting more communications, Lithana reported. The beings on the planet call themselves humans. And Commander, I think I know why they're fighting so strangely. Tell me. From what I can understand, they've only had spaceflight for a very short time. Maybe 50 years. They're not supposed to be able to fight ships like these at all. Veltar stared at the screen. The humans were primitive by galactic standards, but they were holding their own against the most feared military force in the galaxy. There's something else, Lithana continued. I've been analyzing the planet. Commander, it's a death world. The bridge went silent. Everyone knew what a death world was. These were planets so dangerous that no sensible species would try to live on them. High gravity, poisonous air, violent weather, deadly animals. Most creatures would die in minutes on such a world. Are you sure? Dr. Kenthieri asked. I've run the scans 3 times. The gravity is twice what most of us can handle. The atmosphere would kill a Vortani in seconds. The weather patterns show constant storms and natural disasters. Veltar felt a chill run through his body. And the humans evolved on this world? It looks that way. Commander, these beings have spent their entire evolutionary history fighting for survival against their own planet. No wonder they fight so. Strangely, they're used to impossible odds. As if to prove her point, another group of human ships appeared. But this time, they did something that made everyone on the bridge gasp. Instead of fighting the Krillian ships from a distance, the human ships flew directly at them. At the last second, they fired some kind of weapon that attached to the enemy hulls. Then the human ships pulled back, leaving whatever they had attached behind. What did they just do? Dr. Kenthieri asked. They got their answer a few minutes later. The devices the humans had attached exploded, but not with enough force to destroy the Krillian ships. Instead, they made holes in the hulls. They're boarding devices, Veltar said with amazement. They're planning to fight inside the enemy ships. It was the most insane military tactic he had ever heard of. No civilized species fought hand-to-hand combat in space. It was too dangerous, too primitive, too brutal. But as they watched, human soldiers in spacesuits came pouring out of their ships and into the holes they had made. They were actually boarding the Krillian vessels to fight the crews directly. "This is impossible," Dr. Kentheri whispered. "The Krillians are twice as big as most species. They're natural warriors." But something was happening to the Krillian ships that had been boarded. Their weapons stopped firing. Their engines shut down. One by one, they went dark. "The humans are winning," Lithana said in disbelief. Commander Veltar watched the battle with growing understanding. The humans were not just primitive beings fighting for their lives. They were something new, something that the galaxy had never seen before. They were a species that had been forged by a world that tried to kill them every day. They had learned to fight, not just to win, but to survive. And now they were bringing that same desperate strength to the stars. The siege was not going the way the Krillians had planned. For the first time in their military history, they were facing an enemy that simply would not give up. Commander Veltar could not sleep. For 2 days, he had watched the humans fight the Krillian fleet, and what he saw made no sense. The humans should have been dead by now. Their ships were crude, their weapons were simple, and they were fighting the most dangerous military force in the galaxy. Yet somehow, they were winning. Dr. Kentheri had been studying the planet below with all of the ship's sensors. She had not left her station in 18 hours. Her green skin was pale with exhaustion, but her eyes were bright with excitement. "Commander," she called, "you need to see this." Veltar walked over to her station. The screen showed a detailed scan of the human world. The more he looked at it, the more worried he became. "The gravity is 2.3 tons galactic standard," Dr. Kentheri said. "Most of our crew would be crushed just standing on the surface. What about the atmosphere?" 21% oxygen, 78% nitrogen, and trace amounts of other gases. The oxygen level would be toxic to most species we know. It would burn our lungs. Veltar studied the readings. And the weather? Constant storms. Hurricanes that last for days. Earthquakes that can destroy entire cities. Volcanic eruptions. Floods. This planet is trying to kill everything on it all the time. Lithana had been listening to their conversation. "I've been analyzing the human communications," she said. "They have words for all these disasters. They call them natural disasters, but they talk about them like they're normal things that happen." "How do they survive?" Veltar asked. Dr. Kentheri pulled up more data. "I've been studying their biology from the battle footage. Commander, these beings are unlike anything we've ever seen. Their bones are incredibly dense. Their muscles are designed for high gravity. Their blood carries oxygen much more efficiently than ours. And their behavior? They don't panic. Even when their ships are being destroyed, they stay calm. They work together under pressure better than most trained military units." Veltar watched the battle footage again. A human ship had been badly damaged by Krillian weapons. It was spinning out of control, with fires burning inside it. But instead of abandoning ship, the human crew kept fighting. They used their dying ship as a weapon, ramming it into a Krillian vessel. They're not just fighting for their lives, he realized. They're fighting like this is normal for them. Because it is, Dr. Kentheri said. "Commander, I think every day on their planet is a battle for survival. They've evolved to handle stress, danger, and impossible odds. What looks like a desperate battle to us is probably just another day for them." Lithana made an excited sound. "I've been working on translating their language. I think I can understand some of their military communications now." She played a recording of human voices talking to each other during the battle. The translation appeared on the screen as text. "Blue leader to all ships. Enemy formation is breaking. Apart. Jake, take your squadron and hit their left flank. Lisa, you're with me. We're going after their command ship. Copy that, Blue Leader? Lisa here. My boarding team is ready. Remember, people, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for everyone who can't fight back. Make every shot count. The voices were calm and professional, even though the humans were fighting for their lives. They sounded like they had been doing this for years, not like a primitive species that had just learned to fly in space. There's something else, Dr. Canthari said. I've been studying their ships. They're not just primitive. They're improvised. These humans are building warships out of whatever they can find. She showed them a close-up scan of a human vessel. It was covered in armor that looked like it had been taken from several different sources. Some pieces were clearly from their own technology, but other parts looked like they had been salvaged from wrecked ships. They're learning, Beltar said. Every time they fight, they get better. And they're adapting faster than should be possible. Dr. Canthari added, look at this battle footage from 2 days ago and compare it to today. Their tactics have completely changed. They're learning from every mistake. Veltar was beginning to understand something that made him both amazed and terrified. The humans were not just another species. They were something that evolution had, created only once in the galaxy's history. They were survivors from a world that had spent millions of years trying to kill them. How long have they been fighting the Krillians? He asked. Lithana checked her records. Based on the damage to both fleets, I think this siege has been going on for about 6 months. 6 months? Veltar was shocked. Most species surrender or die within weeks when the Krillians attack them. But the humans are not most species. Dr. Canthari said. They're Deathworlders. They've been fighting impossible odds their entire evolutionary history. The 3 aliens watched as another human attack began. This time, the humans tried something completely new. Instead of attacking the Krillian ships directly, they launched something that looked like a space station. What are they doing? Lith-Ana asked. The human space station moved toward the center of the Krillian fleet. It was slow and looked defenseless. The Krillians fired at it, but their weapons did not seem to damage it very much. It's heavily armored, Dr. Canthari observed. But what's the point? It's not fighting back. They got their answer when the station reached the middle of the enemy fleet. Suddenly, it opened like a flower, and hundreds of small human ships poured out of it. They had been hidden inside the station, waiting for the perfect moment to attack. The Krillians were caught completely off guard. They had been expecting another frontal assault, not a trick like this. The human ships were inside their formation. Before they could react, brilliant, Veltar said. They've turned their disadvantage into an advantage. How do you mean? Dr. Canthari asked. The Krillians expect their enemies to fight like civilized species. They expect formal battle plans and predictable tactics. But the humans don't fight like that. They fight like they're still on their death world, using whatever works. The battle was turning in the humans' favor. The Krillian ships were powerful, but they were not designed to fight an enemy that was literally inside their formation. The human ships were too close for the big weapons to target them effectively. I'm picking up more communications, Lithana said. The humans are coordinating this attack from their planet. Someone down there is giving orders to all these ships. A military leader? Veltar asked. Maybe, but it sounds like more than that. It sounds like their entire civilization is involved in this fight. Dr. Canthari looked at the planet's surface again. Commander, I think I understand now. This isn't just a military battle. For the humans, this is survival. If they lose this fight, their species dies. But they're not losing, Beltar pointed out. They're winning. That's what scares me, she replied. If they can defeat the Krillians, what else can they do? What happens when a species that evolved on a death world decides to explore the galaxy? The question hung in the air like a dark cloud. The crew of Harmony's Edge was watching the birth of something new and potentially dangerous. The humans were not just fighting for their lives. They were fighting their way into the galaxy, and they were proving that they belonged there. As they watched, more Krillian ships went dark. The humans were not just defeating them. They were capturing their ships, learning their technology, and making it their own. They're not going to be primitive much longer, Lithana said quietly. Commander Veltar nodded. The humans were about to become a galactic power, and nobody was ready for what that meant. The fourth day of watching the battle began with something that no one expected. The humans were not just defending their planet anymore. They were hunting. Commander Veltar watched in amazement as human ships appeared from places where no ships should have been able to hide. They came from behind moons, from inside asteroid fields, and from the dark side of the planet where the Krillians had not bothered to watch carefully. How many ships do they have? Dr. Kentheri asked. Lith Anna was working frantically at her station, trying to count the new arrivals. I don't know. They keep appearing from everywhere. It's like they've been building a secret fleet. The new human ships were different from the ones they had seen before. These ships were bigger, better armed, and they moved with a purpose that made Veltar's skin crawl. The humans were not just fighting to survive anymore. They were fighting to destroy every Krillian ship in the system. Look at their formation, he said. They're not attacking randomly. They have a plan. The human fleet was moving in a pattern that reminded Veltar of a hunting pack. Some ships attacked from the front, drawing the Krillians' attention. Others circled around to attack from the sides. And a third group waited in the shadows, ready to strike at any enemy ship that tried to escape. They're using pack tactics, Dr. Kentheri observed, like predators on their homeworld. But these aren't animals, Lithana said. These are spaceships with crews. How do they coordinate so well? They got their answer when Lithana managed to intercept more human communications. The voices they heard were calm and professional, but there was something underneath them that made all three aliens feel cold. This is Captain Jake Morrison to all ships. The enemy is trying to regroup near the fourth moon. I want Squadrons 7 through 12 to cut off their escape route. Copy that, Captain. This is Lisa Rodriguez. My boarding teams are ready to take more prizes. Remember, people, we're not just fighting for Earth anymore. We're fighting for the right to exist in this galaxy. Show them what Deathworlders can do. The voices carried an anger that was controlled, but not hidden. The humans were not just fighting a military battle. They were fighting with the fury of a species that had been threatened with extinction. Captain Morrison, Veltar said quietly. I've heard that name before. In the communications? Dr. Kentheri asked. Yes, he seems to be their leader. But listen to how the others talk to him. They're not just following orders. They believe in him. The battle was changing in ways that the Krillians had never experienced before. Their superior firepower meant nothing when human ships were literally boarding their vessels and fighting hand-to-hand inside them. I'm picking up internal communications from the Krillian fleet, Lithana reported. They're panicking. Krillians don't panic, Veltar said. They're the most disciplined military force in the galaxy. Well, they're panicking now. Listen to this. She played a recording of Krillian voices speaking in their harsh, guttural language. The translation appeared on the screen. Command ship. To all vessels, the enemy is using impossible tactics. They're boarding our ships and fighting in zero gravity. Our soldiers cannot match them in close combat. Fleet Commander, we request permission to retreat. We are losing too many ships. Negative. We cannot retreat from primitive beings. Continue the attack. Sir, these beings are not primitive. They fight like demons. They do not fear death. The conversation continued, But Viltar had heard enough. For the first time in their long history, the Krillians were facing an enemy that frightened them. "Look." At this, Dr. Canthari said, pointing at her screen, "I've been studying the human boarding actions. Do you see how they move in zero gravity?" The footage showed human soldiers floating through the corridors of a captured Krillian ship. They moved like they had been born in space, using every surface to push themselves forward. They worked together perfectly, covering each other and moving as a single unit. Most species need years of training to fight effectively in zero gravity. She continued, "But these humans look like they've been doing it their whole lives." "Maybe they have," Veltar said. "Remember, they've been fighting in space for months. They've had to learn fast or die." More human ships appeared, and with them came new tactics that made the Krillian situation even worse. The humans had learned to use their captured enemy, ships, as weapons. They would board a Krillian vessel, take control of it, and then use it to attack other Krillian ships. "They're turning the enemy's strength against them," Lithana observed. "Every ship they capture makes them stronger and makes the Krillians weaker." The tide of battle had completely turned. What had started as a siege by the Krillians had become a hunt by the humans. The enemy fleet was being destroyed piece by piece, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. "The Krillians are trying to withdraw," Dr. Canthari said. "Look, some of their ships are breaking formation." But the humans were not going to. Let them escape. The ships that had been waiting in the shadows moved to block the Krillians' retreat. Captain Morrison's voice came over the radio, speaking to his entire fleet. "This is Morrison to all ships. No one leaves. We finish this here and now. The galaxy needs to know what happens when you threaten Earth." The final phase of the battle began. The humans attacked with a fury that was both terrifying and beautiful to watch. They moved like a single organism, each ship knowing exactly what the others were doing. "They're not just fighting," Veltar said. "They're sending a message." "What kind of message?" Dr. Canthari asked. "That they're not victims anymore. That they're not going to hide and hope the galaxy ignores them. They're announcing that humanity is here to stay." The last Krillian command ship was surrounded by human vessels. It was bigger and more powerful than any of the human ships, but it was alone. Its fleet was gone, destroyed or captured. "The command ship is trying to surrender," Lithana reported. "Are the humans accepting?" Veltar asked. There was a long pause. Then Captain Morrison's voice came over the radio again, speaking directly to the Krillian commander. "This is Captain Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. You came to our system to destroy us. You killed our people and attacked our world. We don't accept your surrender." The human fleet opened fire. The Krillian command ship, despite its shields and armor, was destroyed in seconds. The explosion lit up the space around the planet like a new star. "It's over," Dr. Canthari said quietly. The space around the human world was filled with the wreckage of the Krillian fleet. Not a single enemy ship had escaped. The humans had achieved something that no other species had ever done. They had completely destroyed a Krillian battle fleet. "Commander," Lithana said, her voice shaking, "I'm detecting human ships moving away from the planet. They're heading toward the edge of the system. How many ships? Dozens, maybe hundreds. And they're not exploration ships. They're warships." Veltar felt a chill run down his spine. The humans were not content to simply defend their world. They were preparing to take their fight to the stars. "The Deathworlders are coming," he said quietly. "The galaxy is about to change forever." The silence after the battle was more frightening than the battle itself. Commander Veltar stared at the space where the Krillian fleet had been destroyed. Pieces of metal and debris floated in the darkness, all that remained of the most feared military force in the galaxy. "Commander," Lithana said quietly, "the humans are sending us a message." Veltar's forearms tensed. He had hoped they could slip away without being noticed, but the humans had spotted them. What does it say? It's in basic mathematical language. They're asking us to identify ourselves and explain why we're here. They know we're not Krillians, Dr. Kentheri said. Our ship is completely different from theirs. That might not matter, Veltar replied. They just fought a war for their survival. They might not trust any aliens right now. He made a decision that could change everything. Send a reply. Tell them we're peaceful explorers. Tell them we came because we heard their distress signal. Lithana's crystal fingers worked quickly. Message sent, Commander. They waited. The human ships were still moving around the system, cleaning up the last pieces of the Krillian fleet. Some were collecting salvage. Others were rescuing their own damaged vessels. They worked with the same efficiency they had shown in battle. Incoming. Message, Lithana announced. It's more complex this time. They're using mathematical concepts to build a basic vocabulary. The message appeared on the screen as symbols and numbers that slowly turned into words. The humans were trying to communicate in a way that any intelligent species could understand. They want to meet, Dr. Kentheri said. They're inviting us to approach their planet. Or it could be a trap, Veltar said. We just watched them destroy an entire fleet. They might not be as peaceful as they seem. But even as he said it, Veltar knew he was going to accept the invitation. The humans were the most important discovery in galactic history. They were a species that had defeated the Krillians, something that no one had thought possible. Take us closer to the planet, he ordered, but slowly. Keep our weapons powered down and our shields at minimum. We want to look as non-threatening as possible. The Harmony's edge moved carefully toward the blue-green world. As they got closer, they could see more details of the planet's surface. Cities glowed on the night side, connected by lines of light that must have been transportation. Networks. The day side showed green continents and blue oceans, but also brown and yellow areas that looked like deserts and wastelands. It really is a death world, Dr. Kentheri said with wonder. But they've made it beautiful. A group of human ships came out to meet them. These were not the warships they had seen in battle. They were smaller, sleeker vessels that looked like they were designed for diplomacy rather than fighting. They're escorting us, Lithana reported. Very politely, but they're definitely making sure we go where they want us to go. The human ships guided them to a space station orbiting the planet. It was clearly new, probably built from salvaged Krillian technology. The humans were already learning to use their enemies' tools. Commander, Dr. Kentheri said, I'm detecting life support systems that can handle multiple species. They've prepared for this meeting. A docking tube connected to their ship. Through the airlock came two humans in environmental suits. The first was a tall male with graying hair and calm eyes. The second was a shorter female with dark hair and the same alert look that all the human warriors had shown. Welcome to Earth, the male said through a translation device. I am Captain Jake Morrison. This is Dr. Rachel Thompson, our leading expert on alien biology. Veltar stepped forward, trying not to show how nervous he was. I am Commander Veltar of the Galactic Coalition research vessel, Harmony's Edge. We came because we heard your distress signal. You heard our signal and came to help? Dr. Thompson asked. Even though you didn't know us? It is our way, Doctor. Kentheri said, we help those who need help. Captain Morrison studied them for a long moment. We appreciate that. But I have to ask, where was this help when the Krillians first attacked us? We've been fighting them for 6 months. The question hurt because it was fair. We didn't know you existed until 3 days ago, Veltar admitted. If we had known, we would have tried to help sooner. 3 days ago? Dr. Thompson looked surprised. You've been watching us fight? Yes. We wanted to understand what was happening before we made contact. Captain Morrison nodded. Smart. We probably would have done the same thing. He gestured for them to follow him deeper into the station. Come on. There are things you need to know about us, and things we need to know about the galaxy. As they walked through the station, Veltar was amazed by what he saw. The humans had taken Krillian technology and improved it. They had combined it with their own innovations to create something completely new. How did you defeat them? He asked. The Krillians have conquered hundreds of worlds. We had advantages they didn't expect, Morrison replied. We're used to fighting against impossible odds. Our planet has been trying to kill us for millions of years, so we've learned to be tough. They entered a large room with windows that looked out at Earth. Dr. Thompson gestured toward the planet below. This is what a death world looks like, Commander. Most species would die in minutes down there, but we call it home. The gravity, the atmosphere, the weather, Dr. Canthari said. How do you survive it? We don't just survive it, Morrison said with a slight smile. We thrive because of it. Every challenge our planet threw at us made us stronger. When the Krillians came, they thought they were fighting a primitive species. They were actually fighting the most dangerous predator in the galaxy. Dr. Thompson pulled up a display showing human physiology. We're faster, stronger, and more adaptable than most galactic species. We can survive injuries that would kill others. We can think clearly under pressure that would paralyze other minds. But more than that, Morrison added, we never give up. That's what our world taught us. No matter how bad things get, you keep fighting. You find a way to win, or you die trying. Veltar understood now why the humans had been so effective against the Krillians. They were not just warriors. They were survivors who had been shaped by millions of years of struggle. What happens now? He asked. Will you join the Galactic Coalition? Morrison and Thompson exchanged a look. We've been monitoring galactic communications for decades, Morrison said. We know about the Coalition, and we know about species like the Krillians. We're not interested in joining anyone else's government. We're interested in being equals, Dr. Thompson added. We want to trade, to learn, to explore, but we do it on our own terms. And if someone threatens us or our allies, Morrison said, his voice becoming harder, they'll discover what the Krillians learned. Earth protects its own. Lithanna had been quiet during the conversation, but now she spoke up. Captain Morrison, we've detected human ships leaving this system. Are you planning to expand into space? We're planning to make sure this never happens again, he replied. We're going to explore the galaxy, find other species that might need help, and make sure everyone knows that humanity is here to stay. Dr. Canthari felt a mixture of excitement and fear. You could change everything. The balance of power in the galaxy ... The balance of power was broken when species like the Krillians were allowed to terrorize others, Dr. Thompson said. Maybe it's time for a new balance. Morrison walked to the window and looked out at Earth. For thousands of years, we dreamed of reaching the stars. We imagined meeting other species, learning from them, exploring the universe together. Then we finally got into space and found out that the galaxy was full of predators and prey. He turned back to face them. Well, we're not prey, and we're not going to let others be prey either. The Deathworlders are in space now, and we're going to make sure that changes things for the better. Veltar realized that he was witnessing a moment that would be remembered throughout galactic history. The humans were not just another species, joining the galactic community. They were a force that would reshape everything. Will you take a message back to your coalition? Morrison asked. Of course. Tell them that Earth is open to peaceful contact and trade. Tell them we want to be friends with anyone who wants to be friends with us. But also tell them this. His voice became serious. Anyone who threatens innocent people will answer to us. The galaxy has a new protector now. As the crew of Harmonies, Edge prepared to leave, Dr. Thompson gave them a gift. It was a small device that would allow instant communication between their ship and Earth. So we can stay in touch, she said. There's a lot we can learn from each other. The journey back to Coalition space was quiet. Everyone on the ship was thinking about what they had seen and what it meant for the future. Commander, Lithana said finally, do you think they'll really try to protect other species? I think they'll do exactly what they said they would do. Veltar replied, they're not the kind of people who make promises they can't keep. Dr. Kenthuri was still studying the data they had collected about the humans. The galaxy is going to be a very different place now. Better or worse? Lith, Anna, asked. Different, Veltar said. And maybe, just maybe, safer for people like us.